Hi, Coach Ruben here. Recently, I've had some questions about about different kinds of foods and whether or not they're healthy or whether they're vegan or if they're plant-based. I've had all kinds of different questions. So one of the things that I want to do in this video is I want to distinguish whole foods that are plant-based versus processed foods that are plant-based. All right. What we ascribe to in the American College of Lifestyle Medicine is a whole foods and a plant-based diet. So whole foods, meaning that there's nothing added, nothing taken away. It's not processed food. So there's a difference between whole foods and processed foods. So I want to distinguish that. And then plant-based as opposed to animal-based. All right. So let's look at the whole food part of this equation. All right. So whole foods, what we're talking about here are either whole grains, legumes, vegetables, or fruit. Okay, those are your four categories. And whether there's nothing added and nothing taken away. All right, so it's the whole food. So it's minimally processed. It could be ground up, it could be smashed up, it could be, um, uh, but everything is there. All right, so we haven't extracted anything, we haven't filtered anything, we haven't purified something and removed other things. All right, so there's nothing added, nothing taken away. Real important to understand that. So, for instance, Pillsbury really did the world in because what it learned to do back in the late 1800s was to be able to take wheat and other grains and to remove all the fiber to get the core part of the grain called the endosperm and to that white part to make up white flour. All right, so flour is not a whole food. Okay, now if you want to get a whole grain flour, you could take, for instance, rolled oat or steel oats, and you could put it in a food processor and you can grind it all up. And it's got everything in it. So there's nothing added, nothing taken away. That's a whole grain flour. So there's no stripping of the fiber. Okay, so that's really, really specific. Same notion where, for instance, oils. Oils are all processed foods because what we've done is taken the olives, for instance, and we mashed them all up, and then we remove all, all the fiber and all the other stuff, and we just extracted out the oil. So oils are all very much a processed food. Okay, they are not a whole food at all. And even wine is a processed food. Okay, so wine, you take the grapes, and we do the same thing that we do with olive oil. Okay, so we basically smash them all up, and then we extract the juice, and then we ferment it. And all right, so now it's completely obliterated from what it was originally. So wine is a processed food. Okay, it's not a whole food. So what we want to be able to have for optimal health are whole foods. Whole foods, nothing added, nothing taken away, minimally processed. It's got everything there, still there. For instance, tofu is still, everything is there. Okay, all we did minimally, we removed the skin of the bean, but it's the bean curd is still there. So we haven't really, you know, completely eliminated its nature. So it's still, all the nutrition's there, everything is there. So tofu is minimally processed, but other things are a different story. So that's a little just nugget for being able to understand the distinction between whole foods and processed foods. So big difference, big difference. So for instance, corn tortillas, where you take corn and you mash them, it's whole ground corn. That's a whole food. That's perfectly healthy. It's very healthy. Whereas the flour tortillas, now what we do is a completely different story. Okay, we're taking the enriched flour, that white flour, and then we're making that tortilla. Okay, that's not as healthy. Okay, not as not. So we want to ascribe for optimal health. It's whole foods, not processed foods that are plant-based and certainly not animal-based. Hope that helps. If you got any questions, let me know. Okay, thanks for stopping by.